So, how do you actually develop a better relationship with yourself? Well, what you're going to end up doing is grabbing two pieces of paper, and on one of them, I want you to write down 1 through 10. And on the other one, I want you to write down 1 through 10. And then I want you to put happy smiley face on the top and then a sad face on the other one. Now, what you're going to do is pretty straightforward. On one paper, you're going to write down 10 things that actually bring you joy, happiness, any feeling that feels good that is also simultaneously constructive to you. Addiction cannot be one. On the other list, what you can do is write down all the things that you don't enjoy that bring dysfunction or disharmony to your life or your feelings. And through that one, you could put an addiction. So go through those things, write down those things, and go through those things and write down those things. Then I want you to select at least your top three things that you really do not like to go through, and then your top 3 things that you absolutely love going through and experiencing. And so what you'll do from there is start looking at your life in such a way that how can I create more of these positive things in my life? And how can I stop having some of these experiences in my life? Now, the cool part here is once you start kind of getting it out on paper, what exactly do you like and enjoy to experience and to do? Now you start to understand, okay, you know what? Reading a book is something that brings me enjoyment. Meditating or going for a walk or going out in nature or socializing with others. Whatever those things are, if you start doing more of those things, now you're having more of an interesting life, something that is recharging your own personal experience. And if you have an understanding of the things that you really do not like to go through, well, now you at least have an idea of what it is that you can maybe start doing to either distance yourself from those things or create a new set of resources for yourself. What exactly can you do when you're depressed? Or what exactly can you do when you go through a certain thing that you don't enjoy going through? So that could be things that are in maybe like, let's say, a self-care category such as things that make you feel good. That could be taking a hot shower. That could be tidying up, doing some maintenance on your beard. Or it could be going and calling a friend of yours and just having a bite to eat out on the town or something. So once you kind of understand what you don't like, you can start creating a list of things that you can do in those moments to help bring you back over to this side of the scale. And so really what ends up happening here is you start to map out exactly what it is about yourself that brings you into more of a negative experience and worldview, and what brings you into a more positive experience and worldview. And so all you have to do from there is that have that understanding that, yes, I'm going to go through things in life that are painful, that are not fun or enjoyable to experience, but I at least know generally what those things might be. And I also have another list that if I go through these things, I can also find ways to get myself out of a funk and back over into more of a pleasant experience. And so that's just one way that you can improve the relationship that you have with yourself at the end of the day. Because really all relationships is you meet somebody that you view as a stranger. You may have an initial attraction to them, but through quality questions and developing time with that individual, you actually start to get a better understanding of who they are, what they like, what they don't like, where their strong points are, and where their weaknesses are. And the same thing can be said with the relationship that you have with yourself. Chances are, if you're in your 30s, you know what you like a lot more in life than you did in your early teens. Granted, your life must have been a little bit different back then, but a lot of that differencing that you've had till this day probably had some effect from the growth that you had between that time and going through painful experiences and understanding, oh, I don't want to go through that again. So you were maybe more careful or cautious in your life, and you learn to take better care of yourself as well. So when you improve the relationship that you have with yourself, you don't feel the need to dissociate so much from your life. And when you don't feel the need to dissociate through marijuana or other forms of escapism, you start to become a healthier individual. You start realizing that if I just look after myself and I take care of my inner needs, at the end of the day, I'll actually start becoming a more well-rounded individual that can go through hardships calmly and effectively, understanding that those things will eventually flop over into positive experiences again. That's just life. Ups and downs, it's just kind of what everyone goes through. So when you're actually ready to deal with your marijuana addiction and you want to actually stop cycling back in and quitting for a year or a couple months or 3 years and then finding yourself back into smoking again, hit me up. I'll help you get to the root cause of what's going on in your life to where you think that this is the best solution for you now. But don't get me wrong, if you feel like this is what you need to be doing right now and it's not something you're at all interested in doing, now is not the right time for you to quit. If anything, continue to do what you need to do to get through your life. But when you do reach that point where you say, you know what, this is no longer serving me, it's becoming more of an issue, a net negative in your life, hit me up and we can get that resolved for you. Take care.